Okay, we're good. Hey y'all. I was just emptying out videos on my phone, so to make space for this one for today. Anyways, today I read an article about the selves and what it means to have a true self, and what do we even mean when we think of true self, our true self. And I'm quite fascinated with this idea of the self and what does that mean, because with the emerging evidence of our being always changing within our lives, and how our 12-year-old self is completely different from our 36-year-old self in many aspects. One, you could say we inhabit the same body, but what does that mean whenever your cells uh, replace themselves after 7 years, where you don't even have the same cells that you had as a 12-year-old? What does it mean when you can't even remember certain events in your life whenever you were smaller? What does it mean whenever the beliefs I have now, are completely different from the beliefs and attitude I had whenever I was 12? Am I still the same person? Well, you might say yes, but an example they talked about in the article is what was the example? It was if you if there was if you could hop in time 20 years and talk to your future self, would they be more similar to you or more different than you? And or not similar or different, but would they be the same person um as you are right now? And I think most people would say no, they'd be a different person. It's like the 12-year-old hopping into the present moment and saying, "Hey, I'm you." And you saying, "Oh, yeah, I guess you were my past self, but you're not really me." When we disassociate it from our bodies, when we provide the thought experiment of if our 12-year-old selves come to a present, or if our 30 plus years of comes to the present, maybe in a different body, we don't even recognize it as being ourselves. So what does make our true self? And I think for me, what makes your true self are two different things. So if we're talking about how just the individual, then I would argue, well, you're a makeup of all the genes, let's just say that, and that make you up. But in a brain aspect, I think it's this combination and polarity between hot cognition and cold cognition. Now you're asking, okay, what the hell, Matthew? What's hot and cold cognition? And it's my understanding of it is hot cognition is those things that are impulsive, that instinctual, that are unconscious, that you do on instinct, that you really have no control over. A lot of your emotions, um, a lot of your instant reactions. That's kind of your hot cognition. And so hot cognition has evolved through hundreds of thousands of years. It's the older system, it's the older cognition. And it makes sense because you see that in a lot of animals, how animals react and maybe not think, we don't know how they think, but how they act. it seems like they act in a lot of these hot cognition ways, from their impulses, from their instincts, from our behaviors, their habits, and doesn't seem like they can change much of these. Now, the distinguishing factor between us as an animals, one of the distinguishing factors is we have this thing called cold cognition, and cold cognition for humans is more newly developed cognition, but it's that reasoning. It's the ability to uh, self reflect. I would also put in there our ability, our imagination to imagine, our ability to self awareness, and also, what's it called? Our independent will. Being able to implement different behaviors onto ourselves. And I think that's important, and it's important function for understanding what might be our true selves. And it's that part of it is that independent will, and that being able to cold cognition, to be able to continuously uh, habitualize yourself so that your actions become habit and also become hot cognition. You might be asking me right now, what the hell? What do you mean by that? And this is kind of what I mean. Is if you want to change something about yourself, and that's an indication that you want to change some of your hot cognition of the things you habitually do, the things that you instinctually do. And how you do that is by recreating the habit with your cold cognition, with your reasoning, and also your independent will. So let's say you want to go on a diet. Your hot, and let's just say what you've been eating before is just fast food, constant fast food. Your hot cognition, your impulses and instincts are tailored towards always eating fast food. So all your habits and all your instincts goes towards that. So at the very beginning of creating your habit, you are more inclined to go to that fast food because as it's almost instinctual, you've made it part of your inner being that it's unconscious and doesn't think. So whenever you're driving by a McDonald's, your instinct is to just go into the driveway and get some food real quick instead of let me eat an apple. Terrible example, but the way we kind of change our hot cognition is by this cold cognition. So if you're going by the fast food and your instinct is to go into the fast food line, maybe you go into lane and then your cold cognition, your consciousness kicks in and says, "Hey, no, we're going home. We're gonna we have food at home and we're gonna do this." And you exert energy and concentration in your consciousness towards that action. And the more times you do it, the more time and you succeed over your or hot cognition, it starts to embed itself into your hot cognition until you get to a point where your instinct isn't to go into the fast food lane, it's to go home. And I think this interplay between hot cognition and cold cognition is where we find something called our true selves. And it's this interplay between those two. Because some hot cognition are things that you can't necessarily change. Let me think. I would say I'm not certain, but the thing that's coming to my mind would be personality. So things that you like. I can listen to something that I dislike and try to listen to it and appreciate it and listen to it more and more and more. But if my hot cognition or my unconscious just doesn't vibe with it, then it's hard to grow to love it. Now that's not to say that things you disliked previously don't become some things that you like. I just don't think cold cognition has a vital role in influencing your personality. So I think there's some things that and hot cognition just drives on its own. So I think a good analogy would be for hot cognition and cold cognition and also our true selves and how they work together is thinking hot cognition as the ocean and to think cold cognition as dams and canals. There's not hot cognition is a powerful energy and current that influences our daily lives and mostly our daily actions. And we can't necessarily control these actions. We can't go into the ocean and say, "Ocean, you're not going to rain today. You're not going to have a tsunami today." Because it's going to laugh and then have a tsunami. But how we should think about this is that, okay, we can't really control our hot cognition. But what we can do is build canals and dams and channels with our cold cognition to help flow the energy into different directions. So take for a fast food example. I can't in the moment and say, "Hey, stop thinking about fast food." My hot cognition is going to laugh and lead us towards fast food. And it's that energy of the ocean and of your habits and your hot cognition pressing up against you. Oh, how we do change it is we start creating dams to wall off dam. Well, more not. We could just say a channel to direct that ocean in a different way. So we know our hot cognition works with instincts and habitualization. So now with our cold cognition, we have to create the channel or canal to direct it towards being more health focused, something that's habitualized and health focused. So though we can't control it, we can regulate it, how this hot cognition works. So going back to our example, once we repeatedly keep going to the apple and the healthy and the chicken and the fish, it's that creating of the channel. And the ocean's gonna ocean of hot conditions try to wipe it away every single time. But if we keep at it, keep building this canal and channel, and once it's finally done, we can direct the ocean to where we want it to go, in this sense, the healthier diet. And now, instead of the hot cognition always going towards it's fast food, it goes towards your healthy diet. But it's that building over time of that channel with your cold cognition that eventually gets it to become hot cognition or directing your hot cognition to healthy habits. And I think that's part of our true selves. And I think that interplay between hot cognition, so your emotions and your instincts, and cold cognition, more like your beliefs and what you believe that should happen, is what make is the tension between what makes us ourselves. Now, I think we can distinguish this from what I believe to be natural principles and natural laws to the universe as well. Um, I'm not as confident in this. I'm still working on it, but it seems like there are natural principles and natural ways of living in this world that are just natural to life and the cosmos itself. We can already see that a little bit in its laws, and something like the law of paradoxes, where life just seems to be a bunch of paradoxes put together. Life is difficult, but once you accept it's difficult, it becomes easy. Accepting a negative experience is a positive experience. Wanting a positive experience is a negative experience. Uh, there's other ones I have them on my phone. Now we can go down. But that seems to be a natural law of how this world operates. And I think we can go a step further and do something in like what the Tao talks about. And the Tao is Eastern, it's an Eastern religion talking about how the Tao is the underlying way in which the world works. And the Tao literally little translation is the way. It's the way. And I think I tend to believe there is something like that. There's a way of being that is uh, natural to the cosmos. And I can't give you specific evidence. I would lead you towards the Tao Te Ching, but I do feel like the Tao Te Ching does have some flaws with it as well. But I think most of not necessarily the content. I think all the content is great, but I think doesn't it doesn't have it's lacking in information. I think it talks a lot about the natural way of living in the world, but doesn't incorporate the cold cognition aspect, the reasoning and understanding of the world, and our ability to insert our independent will into this world. Um, but I'm not very confident in my opinion on that. So we'll see about that. And so, but as let's just say is a natural way of living in this world. Well, we could say that our true selves or our authentic selves should be in line with the natural way of the world and cosmos. And essentially, that should be our true authentic selves, is that way in which we go in the world, walk in the world. Now, I don't think there's a definite answer to this. I don't think the way is do X, Y, and Z, and then you're in the way. I think it's much more complicated than that, and there's many different ways you can get to it. But I think in conjunction with these natural laws and natural principles is a natural way of going into the world that encompasses many aspects of how a human can present themselves. And I think if you are presenting yourself in those kind of ways that are in line with the principles and natural laws of the world, that you are fulfilling your authentic self as well. Uh, that was a lot. I haven't done a 20-minute video in a while. I think I just had a lot to say about this topic because it's really interesting. Hot and cold cognition are just interesting subjects, and then your authentic self is also interesting. And then, of course, whenever we put the Tao Te Ching into anything, it's bound to be a trip. So, well, yeah, I talked a lot, but it was a good talk, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.